Hello and welcome to Cataclysm University. My name is Vormithrax and I'll be your instructor today. This is course number 19 where we'll be discussing how to increase your skills effectively. So skills in Cataclysm are very important. It's a good thing to know just what they are, where to get details about them, and how to raise them. So if you go to your character sheet with the Shift-2 command, you can hit the Tab key to move down to the skills category, and then you'll be able to use the arrow keys to move back and forth through the various skills, and you'll see here the description for the skill updates as you move between them. So this is a good way of getting a basic overview of what a skill involves or controls. So obviously for cooking, your skill in combining food ingredients to make other tastier food items. They may also be used in certain chemical mixtures and other more esoteric tasks. So most of these are fairly straightforward and obvious, but there's a few that kind of connect to a bunch of different things. So, for example, Marksmanship. So your overall skill in using bows and firearms. With higher levels, this general experience increases accuracy with any bows or firearms, but is secondary to practice with the type of ranged weapon in question. So basically it has an effect that's beneficial the higher your marksmanship is for both bows and firearm skills. So there's a couple things like that in here. Dodging is another one that kind of connects to a lot of the different combat mechanics. Melee connects to the various types of melee weapons, whether it's piercing, bash, cutting, and so on. But for the most part, they're all fairly straightforward and specific. Shotguns, if you want to get better at, you just go out and practice using a shotgun. And that's true with all of these skills. Basically, you have two main ways of raising skills. One is through practice, meaning actually perform an action in-game that is specifically tied to that particular skill. So that would be archery, actually equipping a bow and some arrows and going out and shooting some things with the bow and arrow. Each time you do, you're going to get a little bit of experience and raise your archery skill. Now, some skills, archery and ranged weapons in particular, might give you messages as you raise the skill and try to use the same item. If you watch your messages list over here, it'll mention sometimes that you're not firing from far enough. So like for rifles and bows, in order for your skill to keep increasing and for you to keep improving, you have to be trying to shoot things farther and farther away. So just be aware of that. You might need to get some extra distance in order to actually get some experience points. You can't just keep shooting point blank at things that are easy to hit and expect to keep raising your skills beyond a certain level. So just keep an eye out for that. The other way that you can raise skills is through book reading, and I'll cover that here in just a second. But there's one other thing I want to mention. In a previous course, course number 12, we spoke about focus and morale, and that's listed here for your focus. And we can also bring up the V key to check your morale. I'm not going to go into details in this course about what these are and how they work. Please go review that course for more information. But the net effect is the higher your focus is, the better when you're about to start learning or practicing a skill. So this acts as a multiplier, as a percentage, for whatever action you're about to take. So if you shoot a bow, for example, and it would normally earn you 100 skill points towards XP for that to go up a level. Multiply that by this as a percent, and you get how many skill points you earn. So if it's 100 skill points that you would normally get, times 100% means you get the full 100. If your focus is 90, for example, if it has gone down, then you're only going to get 90 skill points instead of the full 100. You'll get 90%. If your focus is 50, which is terrible, then you're only going to get half of the normal amount of XP. And the reverse is true in the upwards direction. So if you have 200 focus somehow, if you manage to push it up that high, you would actually get double XP for whatever action you're about to perform. So just realize to look at your focus before you're about to go into some concentrated training for your skills. You want to take the time and understand how to raise this focus beforehand to pump it up as high as you can get it, then perform whatever activity, whether it's reading books or doing some practicing over and over again. That way you'll maximize your experience gain and raise your skills that much faster. So it's well worth the effort to do so. And the easiest ways to raise your focus is through either music or games, meaning you can play a handheld electronic game machine and raise your focus a bit because your morale will go up. Basically anything that bumps your morale up is going to raise your focus as well as a side effect. So look for things and ways to raise your morale. The easiest ones to talk about and to demonstrate are music and also food items. So let's do food first. If I go to eat, you'll see the little menu comes up showing you some of the food I'm currently having, or current food I have in my inventory. And as example items, I've got some nachos with cheese and some Toastums. So the nachos with cheese, you'll see here, has a joy value of 16, which is really good. So if I eat one of these nachos, if you watch my morale here, I'll go ahead and eat the nacho. And you see here, you eat your nachos. And then we check that morale. You can see here, enjoyed nachos with cheese. Our morale is now plus 16, and that's going to result in a focus gain of 0.16 per minute. So if I now pass some time, and if we look at the focus, our focus has gone up a point. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you layer in a number of these bonuses over a period of time, it's going to raise this pretty significant amount. So the next thing I want to mention is notice how there's 3 Toastums here. Look at the joy column. There's actually 3 different flavors of Toastums. They're not called out or represented in just the description here with just the name of the item. You actually have to look at the description. So one of them is plus 10, one's plus 18, and one's plus 25. So the 25 is my personal favorite. Oops, we're not going to eat that right now because it would just make us sick, but we're going to go look at them real quick. So let's look at this one first. You can see here, dry toaster pastry is usually coated with solid frosting. Sadly, these are not. If we look at this one, dry toaster pastry is usually coated with solid frosting, and what luck, these are strawberry flavored. Yay, strawberry, 25 enjoyability. And the last one is blueberry flavored, 18. So apparently, whoever developed these really likes strawberries because they get the highest enjoyability factor. So realize not all Toastums are created equal. So I could eat one of these as well, and then I could eat some candy and drink some soda, and there's a lot of different food items that have varying amounts of joy value. So just realize you want to fill up on some happiness or joy value items before you start doing a book reading session or doing a practice session of skilling. And be careful of how full you are. You don't want to overstuff yourself and get sick, but just keep that in mind. You want to basically tank up on positive joy-related food and drink items before you start a session. Now, another thing you can do is music. So here's one choice. You can do an MP3 player, and if you just apply the MP3 player, you can see here, you put in the earbuds and start listening to music. We let some time pass. I'll let just a few turns pass, and then we'll check the list. You can see music is now bumped up to plus 14. We're going to let it a little bit longer pass. Check again, and it's now plus 20, and it's going to hold at plus 20. That's the most you can get from this music option. But that will stay that way as long as we are listening to the earbuds and listening to the music. So that gives us another good boost. And then we also have an option to use an acoustic guitar. We're going to wield it, and then we're going to activate it. And that's going to also provide us with some music. And it won't go above 20, so if we deactivate our MP3 player to save the batteries, we're still playing our guitar. So you can see here as I pass time, you play a slow bluesy tune on your guitar. So that is a non-battery method of keeping your music level up. So it actually bumped it up to 22. Let's let a little bit of time pass here. Heard a noise. Nope, 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 ignore. Oh, we got some worm activity to the north. Alright, let me pop out and kill this real quick. Hey there, worm. Goodbye. Oh, I gotta kill him again. Alright, now we're gonna be safe from interruption again. Alright, so if we check our morale again, yeah, it's stuck at 22, but you can see we've been gaining 0.34 per minute, so now we're up to 104 focus. And more importantly, we can maintain playing the guitar while we're reading books and certain other activities as well. So that's the next topic. How do we actually raise our skill? So now that we've got our focus being worked on, let's take a look at some books real quick. So I've got a pile of books here. What a Transistor, So What, Crafty Crafter's Quarterly, and Under the Hood. Now, when you first find books, they're going to be that red color. So you can see here, they're all bright red. That means you have not yet examined them to get a feel for what's in the book. Basically, we need to do a quick read of them, and it's not studying the books, it's just going to do a skim of the book and the table of contents to learn what's in it, what kind of recipes it has, and what kind of difficulty level it is. So, as long as we've got light to read by, we can go ahead and hit Shift-R to go to the read mode, pick a book, And we're going to pick all 3 or 4 of the books here. I'm going to do the same thing. And you'll see here messages about the book. So that one, for example, says, can bring your tailoring to skill 3, requires intelligence of 4 to easily read, and a chapter of this book takes 18 minutes. And it also has 39 crafting recipes. So this is also very important with regards to books and learning. You're not automatically going to know every crafting recipe in the game. Having books nearby to your crafting area allows you to use them as reference documents, and you'll be able to then see the recipes that they provide and try to build from them. So if you step away from your books too far a distance, you're not going to be able to build whatever recipes those provide. Let's finish examining these real quick, and almost no time passes in doing that. But now that we've got them all examined, they are in our inventory now. I'm going to go ahead and drop them back on the ground. Alright, and now when we check that read menu, instead of them being listed in red, they're in blue, and the color coding is important. Blue means you can actually skill up using this book. When it turns yellow, it means you cannot skill up, but it has recipes you have not fully memorized yet, so it's beneficial to still keep the book nearby your crafting area so that you can use it for the recipes. And then when it turns gray, it indicates that you can no longer learn skill, and you can no longer use it for recipes. You don't need to, that is. You've already learned all the recipes it provides. And the only other color is purple. Purple indicates that you don't meet the minimum requirements that are necessary in order to understand that book. So you're going to have to raise your skills to a certain minimum before you can actually learn from that particular book. So I don't have an example of that here, but you'll know it when you see it. It's pretty obvious. All right, so now, which books do we want to read? Well, that depends on a few things. First, what skill do you wish to train up? And it will show you what skills it will provide you. So if we read the Crafty Crafters, it'll bring our fabrication up to a level 1 maximum. So what clothing will bring our tailoring to a 3 max. Then under the hood is mechanics 3, and what's a transistor electronics 3. It also shows you a column for how many recipes. The fun factor for reading the book. So some books give positive fun factor, some books have no effect on your fun or morale and focus, and some books are negative. That's one of the reasons why you want to be actively playing a musical instrument while you're reading books, especially ones that have a negative fun factor, because by having the music playing actively while you're reading it, it will counteract the negative fun or morale and focus drain that will occur while you're trying to study. So be certain to get a musical instrument playing, or be listening to headphones, or have your stereo in your workshop machinery running. Anything you can to keep your focus as high as possible and maintain it while you're performing reading actions. Especially the higher tech books have big negative drains on your focus and morale. So you'll need to do everything you can to offset that negative. And then finally, it shows you how long it takes you to read a chapter, which basically is when you have an opportunity to gain some experience points. So preferably, you want to read something that's going to give you the most skill up a possibility, with the highest fun factor and the lowest amount of time to read per chapter. So you'll see as you gain a big balance of books which ones to go for. But if you have 2 books to provide tailoring to 3, for example, and one will read in 7 minutes and the other reads in 16 minutes, obviously read the one for 7 minutes because you'll gain the skill a lot faster. But then you also have to factor in the fun factor and so on. So it's not real complicated, but understand what each of these columns means and how it's going to benefit you. So I usually will go for the book that's got the highest potential for the skill level in the fastest amount of time, and then I pay attention to the fun factor last, unless it's really glaring difference. Alright, so that's how you pick a book. Now, before we start reading a book, I want to do a demonstration of practicing a skill before we start the reading process. So I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to do an example of a real simple one that you can do early game that can be beneficial. I don't often do it in my own games because I think it's a bit cheesy, but you feel free to do this if you'd like, and it's the throwing skill. So throwing skill can be pretty beneficial early game, especially before you get access to more gear and weapons and loot and so on. And what I'm going to do is just throw rocks at a wall. So you can see here currently I've got 0% progress and 0 skill level in throwing. If I hit T to throw, pick a rock, and then I'm going to say throw a rock at this wall right here. And then bam, you see the thud and the wall stop the rock and it's now laying on the ground. If I check my skill level, I've now gained 5% towards level 1 for throwing. If I just throw rock, and it keeps wanting to throw at my NPC buddy because he's the nearest target, so let's do this. Let's step around the corner here so he's not in sight. And we'll just throw rocks at this wall. And I don't remember if backing up and throwing further makes a difference. But you get the idea. Very quickly, you can gain a level here. So we're at 30% already for throwing. So just by spending a few minutes throwing rocks at a wall, you could gain your first level of throwing skill. And as you level up, that's going to decrease and get harder to raise as time goes by, but it is a way of getting a skill up early game. So that's one example of actually practicing how to do a skill specifically and gaining experience in it. The same is true if you strip a vehicle of parts, you gain mechanic skill. If you go out and search the underbrush near the forest area, you'll gain survival skill. Pretty much most actions in the game are tied to one of those skills, and you just have to think through and figure out which action might be best or easiest for you to perform to raise that particular skill. When that's not an option for whatever reason, then you can go to book learning. So, for the books, again, let's go ahead and read. We've already eaten our food, we've got our music playing, so we're now going to read, and we're going to watch down here, and I'm going to temporarily turn off the acoustic guitar, and there's a reason for that I'll show you in a moment. But I'm going to read this fabrication book. It's only going to take 7 minutes per skill up opportunity, and it has an option to raise our fabrication to 1. So when we pick it, we then have a choice. Read it once, which means read a 7-minute chapter for a skill up percentage, or we can read until we gain a level. So it'll just keep reading and reading and reading, and you'll see the time flying by until we actually finish it. And actually, let me summon up one more item here. We'll find a wristwatch. And we'll go ahead and wear that. Alright, I did that so that we could see exactly how much time is going by. So we're going to read, and the things to watch is right here. You're going to see lines of information as it gains us experience towards our level. And then also you'll see how much time goes by. So we're going to read that Crafty Crafter's Quarterly. And I'm going to tell it to read once first. Alright, so we did read it. And you can see here it says you learn a little about fabrication. And we got 4% towards our level. And a little bit of time has gone by. Should be that 7-minute time frame. And our focus has gone down a bit. So reading inherently is going to lower your focus. So that's why it's normally good to have the guitar running or playing, to have your food bonus items running, and so on. So that was just one. So if we do it again, whoops, that time I hit to read until you gain a level, and now we've got a whole bunch of messages popping through. Unfortunately, we're also cold, so our hands are cold. We're getting frost nip, so those messages are interspersed. But you can see here it shows this message 76%, then it jumped to 88, then it jumped to 92, then it jumped to 96. So we're getting about 4% per level, or per 7 minutes basically is what's happening. And that increased our fabrication. So I believe if you raise your intelligence, you'll be able to learn faster, you'll get higher percentages each bump. But at our current levels and skills and stats, that's what we're getting. We're getting 4% per chapter, which is every 7 minutes essentially. So you can do the math and just figure out exactly how many at 4%. It's going to take 25 tries, 25 times 7%, or I'm sorry, 25 times 7 is going to give you how many minutes it's going to take in order to get a level. So a couple hours basically. So if we look at our skill up now, we now have fabrication level 1. Exactly. And if we do read, that book is now gray because it can only raise our fabrication to 1. It can no longer raise us any skill levels. So we can move to a different book. But before I do, I'm going to turn the guitar. Actually, guitar is on. No, now it's on. Alright, so we're playing our guitar, and we're going to get a massive slew of messages between the frostbite messages and the guitar playing messages. So it's a little hard to read the progress, but you'll see what happens here when we read. And we'll do Under the Hood next for mechanics. And there's that big pile of messages because we're getting the guitar playing messages as well as the we're cold messages. So buried in here are these little messages about how much skill we're gaining. And then we got to level 1. And some more time passed. So this one takes longer than the other one. So it takes more than twice as long. So as books take longer and longer per chapter, it's going to take you a long time to actually fully level up on some of these. And you also have to pay attention to how much time is passing, how cold you are, and also your hunger and thirst. So now that we've got some hunger, we could eat some more of our yummy, yummy food. So we could eat all 3 of these. Then check our list here, and you can see they stack. So each toastum is its own individual thing. So because I have 3 different types, I get 3 different bonuses. Yay! Plus we have the music bonus, and we're still hungry, so we can have some nachos. And I don't have any drink with me at the moment to solve our thirsty problem, but that's fine. So I think that covers most of the things I wanted to cover. You can see our focus has dropped substantially as well. So it would take some time for our focus to regain again. So right now we're gaining almost 1 focus per minute. So if we let 30 minutes pass, let's see if we gain 30 focus. So it'll be up near 100. Pretty close, so we got up to 98. So you can see how this kind of compounding benefit is really helpful. Now these degrade as time passes, so now we're down to 0.92 or 0.72 instead of 0.96. So you have to keep refilling these, or re-eating and drinking and doing whatever you need to do to raise your morale back up again. But we're almost back up to full normal 100 focus. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this particular course. I hope you found it helpful. It's very important to understand how to perform this kind of skill up process. The practicing is the last thing I actually do want to mention. In regards to practicing crafting, let me mention this before I end the course. So when you are wanting to practice crafting things to raise things like tailoring, fabrication, and things like that, what you want to look for in particular is something that is equal to or higher than your current skill level, the preference being 1 level higher. And when you have books nearby, that's when this becomes possible. Because if you don't have any books with recipes nearby, you'll never see a recipe that's higher than your current skill level. But if you have books with recipes nearby, they will give you the option to try to build things higher than your current difficulty level, or your current skill level. And the benefit to doing that is if you're building something 1 difficulty higher than your current skill level, there's a greater chance of an effect that if you fail, you will fail but not waste materials. Now, when you try to build something, you get skill regardless of whether you fail or you succeed. And when you fail, there's actually a couple of different possibilities. You can fail and waste the materials that you use, the raw materials, so you've completely botched it, you failed to build the end item, and all the raw materials that you tried to use to build it are completely destroyed. There's another option, though, where you will fail, but you don't waste any of the materials. And that's the best one by far when you're trying to do this kind of skill up, because you still gain the XP, you didn't use up any of your raw material supply, and you don't actually end up with the end item, which you probably didn't want anyway, because you're just doing this to skill up with. You're not really doing it for whatever the end item is. So the optimum effect or optimum thing you want to happen is you want to try to build the item, you want to fail, but you want it to fail in the way that you don't actually waste the raw materials. That is the best solution or best possible outcome when you're doing skill ups in this method. So just go through your list of various items that you can build and check to try to find one that's got the highest difficulty with the lowest or easiest raw materials that you can have a source of. So you want things that are very, very easy for you to gather or that you already have a big stockpile of, and also that takes the shortest amount of time to complete. So there's several things you want to look for when you're picking what to actually skill up on, but those are the primary things that you want to take a look at. The difficulty, how quickly it crafts, and then the raw materials that are necessary to build it. Do you have lots of them, or are they easy for you to go gather? Don't try to build for skill up purposes with things that have really rare materials that are hard to gather or that take huge amounts of time. So those are things to watch out for. And that does complete the course. Went a little longer than I was hoping, but I wanted to make sure we covered it in detail because it's a very important topic for your future growth in Cataclysm. And it's something to know about ahead of time, because you do have to do some prep work before you try to do this kind of skill up. But skills are super, super important. You want to raise them as soon as you can, as high as you can, because they just open up huge amounts of content for you. and or improve your combat capabilities by quite a bit. So having high skill in rifles is going to be vastly beneficial when you're out fighting with a rifle. So don't underestimate or undervalue skills in your gameplay. Alright, so that's it for now. So thank you again for watching the courses. I hope you're enjoying the university series itself and the other series that I provide. Please do check out the social media contacts I've got below. If you have any questions, I've got a Discord link down below that you can come visit me on, and I'd be happy to help you out in any way possible with this or any of the other games I cover. And I hope to see you in the next course and the future episodes. Have a great day. Bye-bye.